In this video, we are talking about how to buy a home. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. Today I am talking about how to buy a home in Cleveland, Ohio. So a lot of times people get this process a little backwards. So I just want to break it down for you so you know the right steps to take. So step number one, I want you to reach out to a real estate professional. Some people may say talk to a lender first, but the real step should really be to talk to a real estate agent in the area where you want to purchase. The reason for this, a good real estate agent will be familiar with all of the loan products that are out in the marketplace. So maybe you need down payment assistance, and not all lenders are approved to do or offer down payment assistance. So you want to get connected to someone that knows about the different loan products so you are pushed over or connected with the right professional in that matter. So once you have your real estate agent and you connect with your loan officer, they're going to issue you a pre-approval, not a pre-qualification. The pre-qualification is still is not them looking at all of your details and giving a final dollar amount that they will approve you for. So you want to make sure that you have your pre-approval. Once you have your pre-approval, that will allow you to know how much of a home that you can purchase. Now, I will warn you that the lender is going to almost always approve you for way more than what you initially budgeted for. So just because they approved you for that dollar amount does not mean that you have to purchase for that dollar amount. In fact, I highly recommend that you come in slightly under so you can prepare yourself after you close. If you need to buy appliances, if you'd like to have a nightlife or anything else, you want to make sure that you're not so stretched out or what they call becoming house poor. So with that being said, your next step is, after you know what that dollar amount is, you kind of want to narrow down the area that you're looking. Your real estate agent will put you in a home search in the multiple listing service. This is a service that real estate professionals have access to. This is the most accurate and up-to-date information. Although I know that a lot of buyers like to use websites like Zillow and Realtor.com, these sites do not always have the most accurate and up-to-date information. So in fact, a lot of times people get frustrated as they're going through it because they think they found the house, but then when they talk to the real estate agent, that house is actually not available. So you want to look at the data that pulls from the multiple listing service, because that's going to be the most accurate and up-to-date information. Okay? So now you're in the portal. Now you found a home that you like. You'll start going out. You'll start touring those homes. My recommendation is to stick to about 4 to maybe 5 homes at a time. Anything more than 4 or 5 homes, you'll start to get them crossed by the end of it. As you're going through the homes, you want to make note of you like this one or that one, the pros and cons of each of these houses. This will help you out tremendously because, like I said, even with 4 or 5 houses, when you get to the end of it, you're not going to remember which house had what. So now, after you start looking through the houses, you may finally find the house that you are interested in, right? So now you want to write an offer on that property. So your real estate agent will prepare the contracts for you, and as part of those contracts, there's a lot of disclosures on the property that you want to make sure that you review before submitting that offer, because in those disclosures, it may list in there any concerns or repairs or anything that current owner had to deal with while owning the home. So when you present that offer to your seller, that seller has 3 options. They can either accept that offer, make a counter offer, or just totally reject that offer, right? So if they make a counter offer, you can always go back to make another counter offer until you guys come to terms on the contract. If they accept that property as is, or that contract as is, the things start fast paced right here. So a lot of times buyers get a little on edge at this point because things start to pick up very quickly, and then they start hearing from different parties in the transaction. So they start to get a little nervous and like, whoa, this is reality, oh, this is really happening for them, and they get overwhelmed. So part of this is I want to make sure and have you prepare for what happens next. So once that offer is accepted, it then, as your agent, I'm sending it over to a couple different parties. First is your loan officer. Your loan officer is going to review that contract and then follow up with you from there, right? So at that same time, they're going to want you to make a formal loan application. That formal loan application comes with a cost that is non-refundable. On average, it's about $500. So your loan officer is going to expect for you to cut a check for $500 at that time. So you cut that check over to them, and then they're going to start asking you for updated bank statements, pay stubs, and some additional information, and get the ball rolling with that. All right, so next up, we are going to ask you for an earnest money check. The earnest money check is money that is not always required, but it's really customary in your real estate transaction. This is a good faith deposit to say that you are serious about this property and you're not just wasting that seller's time. On average, that in the Ohio market, it's anywhere between $500 and $1,000. So as your agent, I'm going to be asking for you to send me over a earnest money check so that we can get it over to that listing agent to hold that property for you. Next, your home inspection. So at this time, once the contract is accepted, it is now going to be time for you to go ahead and schedule your home inspection. As your agent, I like to provide you with at least 3 contacts for a home inspector. That home inspection, if you're talking about a general home inspection, on average runs about $350. It can go up from there depending on the size of the home, and in addition to if you get any additional upgrades to your home inspection. So if you're getting a radon, pest, mold, whatever it is that you need, when you add on those additional services, the pricing can go up on there. So right out the gate, you're looking at just under $200 or more for within that first week of your offer being accepted. So for many people, it's like, wow, I just feel like I'm giving out a check here. I'm being pulled in all directions. Because on top of that, with that home inspection, you usually have roughly about 7 days, sometimes only 5 days, maybe as long as 10 days to have that home inspection done. Most of the home inspectors, if they're experienced, they know that when you call them, they need to get out there right away, schedule it, and get that report back to you. Because when that report comes back to you, we're going to review that report, and then we're going to send over any requests to the listing agents that you may have for repairs. This is not a free-for-all. You cannot say that you want all. If there is 50 items on the list, you can't really ask for those 50 items, because it's going to make the seller upset, and they are probably not wanting to move forward with the transaction. In most cases, I tell my clients, let's focus in on any safety and hazard concerns. Those safety and hazard concerns can range anywhere from maybe like foundation issues to smoke detectors to having your furnace serviced and cleaned. So we want to look at that. There's no perfect home. Even in a new construction home, there may still be some open items that we have to request for repairs. So it's kind of to be expected on there. But at the same time, when we initially write that contract, I definitely want to make you aware that when you write your initial contract, a lot of people get scared, but there's actually, as long as you have a good agent, those contingencies are in there so you're able to back out of that contract, like a home inspection contingency. So once you go in, you review, make those requests, we send that over to the other agent for the homeowner to accept those repair requests. So it may not always happen in the form of the seller just making those repairs. Sometimes it can be a reduction in the purchase price of the home. And if you're a buyer, as long as you're okay with that, this is totally legal and up to you. If you are, in some cases, it can be, the seller says, well, I'll leave money in escrow at closing. So if you've determined that it's going to be $5,000 worth of repairs at closing, that title company or escrow agent is going to be holding that $5,000 for you at closing. And it could have some stipulations of the title company or the escrow agent will not release those funds until you provide a receipt. Sometimes it could be just right away at closing. It just depends on how the contract is written. So there is a number of ways to remedy that, or the seller could just make the repair. So before closing, those repairs are done. If it's seasonal items, then that money would just stay in escrow until the season opens. Maybe it's painting on the exterior. So spring, summertime come, that seller can go ahead and take care of those repairs for you. So once you get past that home inspection, everyone agrees, we come to terms on that. At that point, your lender is going to be in constant contact with you, asking for additional information, getting these documents over to underwriting and looking for at least a conditional approval. A conditional approval from the underwriter may require some additional information. It's conditional based on, showing a receipt that an item showing up in your credit report was paid off. Something like that is usually not too much, and that is definitely a good sign when they at least issue a conditional approval. Some of the things to think about before closing on the property is you will need homeowner's insurance before you close. So keeping that in mind, you want to make sure that you have a good insurance provider. So a lot of people go with whoever is covering for their automobile insurance. You may want to shop around. Sometimes they're not always the cheapest. For my clients, I do provide you with the list. I work with a lot of buyers over the years, and so they've provided me with some names who have come in to be much lower than some of the local or known companies that are out there. Another thing before closing, you want to make sure that you transfer the utilities. So as long as you know your closing date, we should expect that to be the date. So you can call the utility company, your lights and gas, and have those utilities transferred over as of that day. If something were to happen, then you just call them and just tell them to push it back a day. But if the services are already on, definitely the gas, you don't want to have that shut off, because now it becomes a little bit inconvenient because the gas company has to meet you there. Then they give you this 4-hour or all day window to wait. So something to think about is transferring those utilities. Your water and sewer, if you are in Cuyahoga County, you don't necessarily have to call them, at least not right away, because they go off of the transaction, the taxes, right? So once you close, the tax records are going to be updated with all of your contact information. So at that point, it will automatically transfer. So I would say just wait and maybe a week after you close, and then reach out to the water and sewer company just to make sure they have all of your updated contact information. Because if you call before then, they're going to pull up the tax records, and then they're going to say, we can't talk to you about this file. It's just save yourself some time and just wait until like a week after everything is transferred, and you should be good to go. Something else that we always do is a walkthrough of the property at least 3 days before close. It might be the day before, but at minimum it's usually somewhere around 3 days before close. The reason we do this is because we want to make sure that the property is in the same condition it was in when you first saw it to now. Because in most cases, it may have been, 20, 25 days, even 30 days prior to when you last saw the property. And things can happen. You can have a break-in at that property. So someone could have broken in, they could have stole the plumbing in there, causing damage to the property. And you don't want to walk into that surprise when you find out the property is transferred and boom, now you walk into this chaos, right? So the other thing that can happen is the pipes could just burst. A situation that happened to one of my clients it was in the wintertime here in Cleveland, and it was during a stretch where we had, several days, a week long, below zero temperatures here. And so we went to do the walk-in, and when we walked in the door, there was water pouring from the kitchen area and causing ripples throughout the hardwood floors, throughout the dining room and living room areas. Complete disaster. And so what we found out, what happened was they had all of their utilities in, no one broke in. Well, the battery died inside the thermostat. And so the cold temperatures outside quickly, within a matter of a day, because we had actually just been there, but within a matter of a day, these pipes had froze and caused all kind of damage to this house, which in this case delayed the close on this property. So this is something that you definitely want to consider. If you can't make it to the property, maybe due to work, or if you're relocating here, you can always ask your agent to just walk through the property for you. Maybe you'll do a FaceTime video or just a recording. They can show it to you if you choose. That part is optional. But during that whole process of, once you get the home inspection done, the appraisal is going to happen during that same time frame, right after your home inspection is done. As long as that appraisal comes back at value, you'll be good to go with that. Sometimes that appraisal can come back with some contingencies on there where they say, hey, I will appraise, especially if it's a FHA or VA loan, because these loans are making sure that the property truly is move-in ready for that buyer. So they could have the requirement that the electrical panel needs to be updated. There is a panel called a Federal Pacific panel, and it's known to catch on fire. So because of this, FHA will not approve the loan unless that seller will agree to upgrading that panel. Most agents are aware of this, and when we're listing the properties, we go ahead and let our clients know up front, what needs to be done with this. So, but as long as that appraisal comes back, at value, you're good to go. But sometimes that value does not come back like we wanted or needed to. So what happens? Well, certainly you're not going to want to pay for a house that is valued much lower than what you had offered to purchase it at. Hey, sometimes the buyer works out a deal. They're okay with paying a little bit more for it, for some whatever reasons that they have. But in most cases, what happens is, if it won't come in, and sometimes it's like a couple $1,000, it's not too far off, that contract will have to be adjusted to be able to match what the value is on that purchase of the property. So things do happen. It definitely does not make a seller happy when these things happen, but we just find a way to work it out and get through the transaction. So I hope that you found this information very useful to you, help you get or at least understand the home buying process. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, because I do videos just like this all the time, giving you the updates on the real estate market here in Cleveland, Ohio. My name is Andrea Wilson. I am a real estate broker at Brick House Realty here in the Cleveland market, and people ask me questions all the time, and so I would love to answer your questions as well. Have a good day.